Hello and welcome to iGCSE Success. If you are new to this channel, hello, please do hit the subscribe button or give this video a big thumbs up. And this channel is primarily dedicated to English language iGCSE. However, there may also be times where I just decide to hop on here and just rant and just talk about boring teaching related stuff. Whatever your reason for stumbling onto my channel, I hope today's video proves useful. Now today's video is not going to be the most exciting, guys, but the number one question I get asked from students and indeed parents is, how can I best prepare myself or my son and daughter for the iGCSE English language exam? And with this video, I'm going to give you a number of tips to ensure that you are best prepared for your iGCSE English language exam. Now, obviously, in light of what's happened around the world, this video probably won't be that useful for current Year 11s. But if you are in Year 10 and you are currently looking at the iGCSE English language course, or maybe even Year 9, this video may well be useful for you. So I've been teaching English for about 8 years and I now teach internationally, and I still hear the same things from my students at the international school that I teach at, and that is I do not need to revise for English because it's such a subjective topic. You know, they're worried because they don't get that kind of instant gratification in lesson as they do in, say, maths or science, where perhaps there is a right or wrong answer. What I will say is that the journey to get to that end point, if one ever does get to that end point in English, it's quite a challenging journey, and some students never quite know if they've reached that journey or they are at the stage that they need to be at in terms of succeeding with their iGCSE English language or even English literature. However, despite these initial apprehensions that I hear, there are certainly steps that students need to take in order to succeed at iGCSE level. So before I start, let's dispel that myth of I don't need to revise for English. You absolutely do, and English is just like maths and science. There are past papers you can be doing. There are certain skills that you need to show, particularly if you want to get those top grades. So in this video, I'm going to give you 5 top tips to ensure you are well prepared for the first language iGCSE Cambridge exam. Now, number 1, and I'm sure if you are a student watching this and you've done the whole parents' evening thing, you've been sat there with your mum and dad, and then you hear those words uttered from your teacher, your son or daughter, they have to read more. What I will say is that us English teachers, we do not just say that for the sake of saying it. There is so much weight to when we say you need to read more. There is clear evidence to suggest that, you know, those prolific readers, those more confident readers excel, particularly with the iGCSE English language exam. It is so important, guys, that you are confident readers. Cambridge are notorious, and I say this to my students all the time, they are notorious for picking, you know, quite challenging and arguably quite bizarre text, okay? And within the text that you have to read, there are quite challenging words that if you do not understand the meaning of these words, then quite often you don't sort of get the underlying themes, the sort of deep meaning that the writer is trying to convey. I mean, especially for the writer's effect question, where you are directed to 2 different paragraphs, 9 times out of 10, there will be some challenging words in either paragraphs or both paragraphs. And if you are not able to understand what those words mean, straight away it's going to be limiting the marks that you are able to get, because if you don't understand those words, you are not going to be able to write an effective response to what the writer is trying to achieve. And of course, I don't mean you need to be glued to a book 24/7, but you should be actively reading each night, even if that is 15 to 20 minutes before you go to bed. And also you should be actively wanting to look for words which are perhaps unfamiliar to you, and then making a glossary of these words and what they mean. So when you next hear your English teacher saying, your son or daughter, they need to read more, it is really important, guys. If you are not confident readers, you are going to struggle with the iGCSE First Language exam. My second tip is practice your non-fiction writing, guys. That is so important, and it's worth a lot of marks. There is absolutely no point attempting past paper questions if A, you don't know the approaches, and B, you can't write a formal letter away from an exam piece, or you can't write a journal entry or a newspaper report or a formal report. The first thing you want to do is practice writing in each of the text types that you are required to know and understand and be able to write in. So in terms of preparation, there's absolutely nothing stopping you from writing a persuasive article trying to get your classmates to live healthier lives. Alternatively, there's nothing stopping you from writing a journal entry about a holiday that you've just been on. I think in terms of the directed writing question, what Cambridge look for is someone who has a good grasp of the English language, a good grasp of how to construct effective paragraphs, sentences, etc. But most importantly, how to write with a clear and engaging voice. And of course, the voice that you would adopt for a formal report versus an informal letter, for example, they are going to be very different things. So definitely practice non-fiction writing. Number 3, guys, is accuracy with your writing, okay? Gosh, if I had £1 for every time a student comma spliced in my class, I probably wouldn't be teaching. There are a few unforgivable mistakes which Cambridge hate. Okay, students who cannot use commas correctly is probably one of the most important things. Okay, if you are a prolific comma splicer, okay, if you use a comma in between 2 independent clauses, for example, you are not going to get a top mark. If you are someone who messes up their tenses, you are probably not going to get top marks. Poor spelling as well, missing apostrophes. These basic things which Cambridge expect you to have mastered come year 11, you need to get them sorted, particularly if you are aiming for a top grade. Number 4 kind of links back to my first point, guys, and that's all about the vocabulary choices that you choose to use in, I guess, especially the directed writing question. If you are aiming for a top grade, Cambridge like to see students who can use ambitious vocabulary. Okay, so not just monosyllabic words. This is especially true for the directed writing question, where you quite often have to assume the role of a character. They want to see sentence structures for effect. They want to see ambitious vocabulary, which will allow you to essentially create this convincing voice and this convincing character as per what you have just read in the text. So, that perennial question, how do you improve your vocabulary? Well, as I said, it kind of links back to my first point. You have to read. And I don't just mean passively read a book. If you stumble across a word which you don't understand what it means, define that word, add it to a glossary, and it's more likely that that word is going to stay up there. Now, number 5, my last tip, is to do practice papers. Once you have honed or mastered all of the skills needed to succeed at first language English, there's no reason why you can't hop onto the Cambridge website and download a plethora of past papers. Just like maths and science, you know, those other important subjects. Yes, I know, you're probably sitting there thinking, well, Cambridge, you know, they changed the paper, they made it 10 times more difficult, there's only one 2020 paper. However, that shouldn't matter too much because there's plenty of past papers where you can practice the core skills, summarising, directed writing, and the writer's effect question. And of course, if you do attempt to practice paper or past paper, be sure to download the mark scheme as well, and all of these resources can be found on the Cambridge website. For example, if you are wanting to attempt a writer's effect question, have a go and then look at the mark scheme and see if your points marry up with what Cambridge suggests students should be exploring. So there you have it, guys, my 5 top tips to prepare you for the first language iGCSE exam. As always, if you have any questions, please do leave them below, and thank you for all of your support so far. Again, give this video a thumbs up or even subscribe if you want to, and I promise you that I will try and reply, but I'm pretty busy. Until next time, bye bye.